we're going to go to talk to Jill in Grand Rapids. What's up, Jill?
Hi, Dr. John. How are you?
Good. Hey, you heard the first intro. Not so great, huh?
Hey.
So good.
Give me a look into my future with my 10-year-old.
Exactly. Except he may be in his 40s. Okay, so what's up? How can I help?
Well, I'll just give a little bit of backstory here. I've been married for about 12 years, and my husband previously worked in community mental health for over a decade. And for the last 5 years, he went into private practice as a trauma-focused therapist, which he's amazing at. And I've never seen him so excited to go to work and come home and excited to talk about it. So I'm really thankful for that. However, I have noticed a little bit of a shift in our relationship, how we might handle situations with the kids a little bit differently. And so I was just wondering if you had any insight as to how to help support him in his job, make him feel like I'm not against his job. I just would like my husband to be home when he's home and not him to come home as a therapist.
You did an incredible central to northern Michigan job of painting a really messy situation in as bright of colors as you can. And I know this because I've lived this exact thing. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me more about it.
It's hard because sometimes I feel like
No, hold on.
Client.
You're saying really nice things. Sometimes I feel like. Tell me what's happening.
I'm being talked to in our conversations like a client.
There you go. What does that mean?
It makes me feel like I'm just another person. Not supportive for who I am at times.
And as though you're a person to be fixed or a problem to be solved or a series of actions away from being the person you are supposed to be, whatever that means. Just listening to your language, it's very distancing language. Like you and I could just have a conversation and I would know you interact regularly with somebody who works in mental health. And I've been talking to you for about 90 seconds. Because everything is distance focused. All of your language has space in it from the actual actor and what it's doing to you. You hear what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Give me an example where you're not being supported. Or give me a scenario. Play something out for me.
Well, when we're having, particularly our oldest child, when there is a situation and I do something about it. I say something. I do something about it. I'm not always getting the backup from him.
Are you getting some sort of clinical explanation, or he comes over the top of you?
I don't feel like we're on the same page as far as working with him on certain things. My oldest has had a lot of medical trauma, so he's really good at putting that hat on to help him out and kind of almost back him up instead of backing me up and being a team when we're working with our kids on something.
This is going to sound bananas, but your son needs a dad more than a trauma therapist that lives with him.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I know that you need a husband more so than a live-in expert who's going to guide, and direct everything that happens inside that little home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What does the conversation look like when you've talked to him about this?
It starts out okay, and but many times it comes out in our arguments or heated discussions, if you will, where I might say something and it comes back to him as I'm not good enough. You don't like my job. And it's very hard because he's an internal processor and I'm outward. So I pretty much will say it, and I don't always mean it to offend him. It's just how I'm working through something.
Well, he gets to choose whether he's offended or not.
Yeah.
That's a choice he's making. I applaud you for speaking your needs out loud. Now, if you're rude or you're a jerk or you're trying to throw grenades at him, that's another thing. But it doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like you're saying things like, I'm tired of being treated like a client here, or you're coming home after dealing with kids' trauma over and over and over, and you're bringing that brittleness and that edge, and you want to talk about it all the time, and then that leads into every interaction with our kids is a clinical interaction. Like, I need you to come home and put that stuff down. That sounds like what you're doing more than the other. Is that right?
Yeah. At least I try to.
Yeah. Occasionally I hit him, but other than that, no hitting. So here's the deal. I won't get into my specifics. I don't want to make your story about me, other than to say I was him. I brought that home. And I wasn't technically a trauma counselor per se, but I spent my nights and weekends in hospitals with people over and over and over. And I spent my days sitting with people who were falling apart at the seams and who were struggling to reconcile with tough decisions they'd made, et cetera. And then I brought it home and wanted to talk about it. And I talked to my wife like she was dumber than me. Like I had all the answers because I'd read some article. By the way, psychological articles are less than 50% reproducible, which means they're often garbage. They're trash. They're not, anyway. That's an aside. So here's the deal. You have every right. Let me say it this way. It's unethical for him to wear his hat as a therapist inside of his home. It's unethical. It's wrong. It's against professional ethics. He should not treat his child like a therapist. He shouldn't treat his wife like a therapist. He shouldn't treat his son like a client or his wife like a client or his friends at work or school. His friends at church or in the neighbors or he should treat his clients like clients. It's like boxers who come out of the gym leaving their boxing gloves on and then just deciding to punch people at home. That's just not, you can't do that. Okay. Here's the unfortunate thing, and then here's the empowering thing. The unfortunate thing is you can't make him take that hat off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's a choice he has to make when he decides to be a little more mature in his professional ethics and when he gets a little more comfortable in differentiating his work life from his home life. He needs to figure that out really quickly. Okay? Mm-hmm. You can stop responding to it. And this is where you have the right and the opportunity to say, with respect and dignity and kindness, hey, I'm not your client. And if you talk to me like your client, then I'm understanding that you're choosing to end this conversation.
Okay.
And then he gets to choose. And the first time you do that, your heart's going to beat really fast, probably going to get sweaty, like it's going to feel awkward and weird. And he might throw a fit up against that boundary. What is that supposed to mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. And then you're going to have to articulate it very clear. Okay? Very, very clear. When you talk to me like this, my wife told me, here I said I'm not going to make it about me, but I am. My wife said, you have a very particular tone when you talk to me or the kids. Your jaw sets in a certain way. You have a body posture that doesn't say with, it says at, or it feels over. And she was very, very specific. And it gave me some things to work on, right? I will not be treated like a client. I'm your wife. I get equal say, we get equal insights, and we're going to do this parenting thing together. Have y'all ever gone out for lunch and just talked about what the end game is with your oldest?
Oh, yeah. Many times.
Where's the disconnect there?
I think part of it is he sees how I may want to or choose to parent him in a situation and he's seen the effects of that in his job. And so I think there's some of that is there's the fear.
So be specific. Do you get mad at your kid and you yell, and then your husband is going to work every day dealing with kids who are traumatized? Or do you hit your kid? Like what's the thing that your husband's responding to?
I guess I'm a little bit more. My kid knows my buttons, and so he pushes them, and I react to it.
Okay.
I don't always respond to it. No, I don't hit them, but I may talk to them like, I've told you how many times, or no, you're not going to ride your bike because last time you didn't tell us where you were.
And so what about that does a trauma therapist feel like they need to intervene on?
I don't think he will. He doesn't say, hey, look, your mom said you can't ride your bike. He's like, if he's going to go cool off, let him go ride his bike.
Yeah, that has absolutely nothing with being a trauma therapist.
But then he'll go into, later on when we have discussions about it, he'll go into, here's why. Like, you're destroying your relationship with him because of A, B, or C, or D.
Or you're holding him accountable to certain boundaries to keep him safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I think some of it, too, is his background. His parents were hard on him.
That's it right there.
And so I don't know if that...
Because here's the deal. There is a movement within the trauma therapy world. And here's why I'm feeling this, like if you were watching me now, like my shoulders are tensed up right now. I'm having to breathe through this. One, because I've done this and I see the destructive nature this had in my home. Okay. Me treating my wife and my kids like this. The second thing is there is a insidious thread of support and help through the trauma counseling movement, which I think is an incredible thing. We are I speak all over the country on trauma. I get it. I get it more than most, and it's a huge deal, and it affects millions more people than people think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And simply taking people who have been hurt, who've experienced big trauma, acute trauma, secondary trauma, and not wanting to make them any more uncomfortable is not the way forward. In fact, it makes them less resilient, and it reinforces that anxious mechanism that keeps them spun up all the time. They have to be walked through hard things. That's the whole point of trauma counseling. And so I tell you that to tell you, if there's never tension between a parent and a child, then the parent is failing miserably in their job. What you have is not a trauma counselor who's trying to be supportive. Here's another thing that I mean. I used to say certain things to my son, especially when he was younger, when it came to discipline. And my wife, who is a pedagogical expert, working with kids, and she also had a background of training with discipline with young boys. She said, hey, if you do it like this is not helpful. What you're trying to get is this. Try this way instead. And what she had was a set of skills. It wasn't an undermining because she got uncomfortable or nervous during an engagement. See the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So one is, he feels uncomfortable, and so he's going to jump in there and make himself feel better by making you feel small. Another is, hey, I actually have some expertise here, and I'm going to talk to you about it offline. Because I know your heart, honey, and I know where you're trying to get this young boy, and I know a quicker, better way to get there. That's a totally different proposition.
Yeah.
But hear me say, this is about him, not the trauma. The trauma therapy is simply, he uses that to make excuses for himself. And I'm sorry for that. What you have to do is say, here's what I will accept. And that might be you sitting down saying, no more will I accept you undermining me in front of our kids. If you have a problem with some of the things the way I've said something, or the way I've reacted to something, then I asked you to respect me enough to have that conversation offline. And I promise you that I will be willing to listen if we do it in a respectful way. Is that fair?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes he does say things, and sometimes he's just completely silent.
Okay.
And just allows it to get, I don't want to say worse, but get louder.
Well, and that's what, hey, hold on.
And he doesn't step in. So it's either he chooses to do that or he chooses not to step in at all.
Right. And you're not off the hook either. You've got to stop responding to kids.
Yeah.
They don't get that from you. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
And you might need to be humble and change a few things about how you're approaching things.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Oh, yeah.
My guess is the bigger component here, the umbrella over all of this, is your husband traffics in trauma. He deals with trauma for a living. And he comes home disconnected from himself. And he is unable to be present with his family, the people who love him the most. Because literally, to do the work he does every day, he has to unhook his soul from himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so what you're really asking for is a husband to come home and be present. And when husbands don't know how to come home and be present, they come home and do work. They do jobs. Like fix their wives and instruct their children. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Here's what I would do moving forward. I would come up with your boundaries and I can't express this enough. You got to be super clear. When you say these things, you are choosing to end a conversation with me because I am choosing to no longer be talked to like that. If you have ways that you can teach and coach me because you've got some expertise in an area, I would love to hear it. Here's how and when I will hear that. If I am finding myself reacting, I will ask that you will just walk by. Here's what I asked my wife to do. I asked her to walk by and just put her hand on my arm, just gently like this. And she does. She did it for a couple of years. And now I don't react anymore because she was catching me in the moment and I could feel, oh, there I am. And I was able to take a breath and stop myself. And you, Jill, have to be intentional about stopping being so reactive with your kids. And not apologizing for having accountability and boundaries. This whole thing feels like it's a mess. It feels like there's bigger relationship issues at play than just the kids. And he won't go, but I think it's time for y'all to go to a marriage counselor because I don't like the trajectory of this, if I'm just being honest with you. This ends in a mess. Hopefully he'll go. And if he won't, you can say, I'm going to go. I'm going to go learn some new tools and ways to communicate. Man. Professional helpers. Your family doesn't usually need your expertise, occasionally in a crisis. And I'm talking to police officers, I'm talking to SWAT officers, I'm talking to counselors, I'm talking to nurses. They rarely need your expertise. What they need more than anything is you. So don't hide behind your job and all your knowledge. Just show up. Just show up.